So let's talk a little bit about personal finance. So you said earlier that, it's really easy to create content if I would be talking about this stuff anyway. So why are your finances, or why should people be paying more attention to their personal finances?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's come down to feeling more comfortable. Like, I made a video just the other day, it was about budgeting. And I kind of graduated college, got into my first job, moved into my first apartment. And then I started to slowly see I would only track my financial well-being with my bank account balance. So I had one checking savings account with Wells Fargo, and I would look at that balance, and then if it was going up every month, that was a good sign. If it was going down, that was bad. And when I kind of graduated college, lived at home for a little bit with my parents, which was very fortunate to be able to do that, save a little bit on rent, and the bank account balance was going up because my rent expense was zero. But then I moved out, and slowly but surely I started to see the bank account balance go down. So that meant to me something was going wrong. Looked into the numbers a little bit and saw between my 2 paychecks a month, which was all the income that I had at the time, versus all my expenses and now my rent from my apartment in Philadelphia, it was now going down, and I was technically living paycheck to paycheck. So I had to see what was causing that issue. So that's what really led me to start budgeting, because it was stress. You see articles and things in the news about this all the time, that money is one of the top causes of stress for so many people and so many families. So I started to budget. I saw where my spending was going. It was spending way too much on just junk from Amazon and whatnot. Cut all that stuff out, cut cable, cut just all this random subscriptions, random things like that, and really just got my spending under control. I would stop going out to eat in the city at lunchtime for work, that kind of stuff. It was just small changes, but it was enough to limit my expenses to get it so that I was now cash flow positive every month. And then from there, I knew that, okay, you cut back on your expenses. You can only do that so much. You have to also increase your income. So that was what led me to start looking into the whole drop shipping thing, seeing what businesses I could start. Like I said, 2020 happened, which was like a pause. And then I sort of resumed and thought, okay, what could I do next? And that led me to the YouTube channel. So it was really cutting the expenses, budgeting, seeing what actions I could take today to start working towards either a raise at work, if I was interested in pursuing that, or what side hustles or businesses I could potentially start to increase my cash flow that way. So yeah, really it just comes down to being stress-free, being comfortable.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And that's kind of where the name for Greater Than Enough comes from. I think a lot of people are currently kind of less than enough of, either just breaking even or going into debt, and just the stress around that. It's not that there needs to be, drive a Lamborghini and have this huge mansion, but it's just to be able to choose certain things that you really enjoy doing. Not that you can just go out and spend on everything that you could possibly be interested in, but to be able to be just that weight off your shoulders of if an emergency happens, I have some money for that. If I want to splurge on something today, I'm able to do that. If I want to help my kids with college or something that, I'm putting in money aside for those types of things, to be my life is a lot less stressful if you can kind of take that out. And there's a lot of ways to, as you were saying, of, can I cut my expenses? What are ways to make more money? Am I investing well? And the combination of all those things kind of making you feel comfortable with your finances. And unfortunately, it's not something that some people don't talk about it with their friends, with their family, with their significant other. And so, it's one of those things where it's where do you learn about this? And so YouTube is a good way to share that knowledge. I think is great. And so why don't we move on? You've mentioned this a couple times already, but you recently released a video on how you budget. It's not at all how I think about it. And so I'll maybe share a little bit of that, but I'd like to hear kind of your thoughts of how you manage your money within Excel.
Yeah, so it's, I just created this Google Sheet file. There's a lot of ways for people to do it. For me, it was kind of because I was in a relationship and we were splitting all these different expenses, that it made more sense to do it this way, because we'd be paying for groceries and then the other person's Venmoing that person, and then we're splitting different things. It just became a mess with trying to track different things, or using an app like Mint or something to automate it, which I think can be useful. So I think this just helped everything to get in one place, and it was what worked for me. Again, what works for me doesn't have to work for everybody, but I still like to make the video and then put the budgeting template out there in case anybody wants to use it, and it's gotten, some clicks, not charging anything for it, because I think it's something anybody can make. It's nothing really like advanced. So for me, that was what worked, because I could like enter in, okay, I paid $100 for groceries, and my fiance owes me, $40 or $30 of that because she eats less than me. So it'll adjust for that in that Google Sheet file. So it made everything simpler, because anytime I tried to track anything with an automated system, it wasn't really like tracking the right way. But for some people that might work. I think that when you use an app or anything that automates budgeting, though, it does give you a little bit less oversight, where you could miss a transaction. You're not able to see exactly where everything is. So I think there's, I think what a good strategy would be is to use something like I'm doing just for a couple of months, like I said, to kind of audit yourself to see where your money's going, but then maybe switch to something more automated or something closer to whatever budgeting style you go with.
Yeah, no, I think within one of the apps, it's probably not going to let you adjust your grocery spending based on the portion size between you and your girlfriend. So, yeah, so I used YNAB for a little while, and I think it's helpful to just, have to know where all of your spending is going, and to say, hey, I spend this amount going out to get coffee, I spend this amount at restaurants, this amount here, and then to know kind of in buckets, and then kind of what you were saying earlier of it, it doesn't necessarily have to be something you do forever, but once you kind of have a grasp of that, to be like, hey, there's maybe a few areas that I could cut, and then kind of decide, here's how much I'm going to save, here's how much I'm going to invest, and then just kind of look at the overall balance at the end of the month of your bank accounts to say, am I directionally right? So it's like, is my checking account going up a little bit because I'm hitting my savings goals, I'm hitting my investing goals, and I kind of am spending my money how I'd like to. But then obviously if you have a month where you see like your checking account balance drop by a lot, then you're like, all right, well, what went wrong? And you can review that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be as intense, I say, or gone over quite as much as maybe you've chosen to do. But obviously you have a really good handle on your finances.
Oh yeah, no, and what I do, I'll be the first to admit it's overkill. Like it's I just go through all my transactions, and I'm able to do that right now because it is just me, and my fiance does her own thing as well. But once we combine things, once we have a family one day, like I know it's going to get more complicated. I know there's going to be more transactions, and I know I can only do this for so long. So it's something that works for me right now, but at the same time, I'm also trying to make certain things automated. So I do automatically invest into index funds and that type of thing. So it's like I already have that money coming out of my checking account every single month. So when that's taken care of, it also kind of forces me to live off of less every month. Like it's when you invest in yourself first, then you're just gonna have to live off of the rest. But then, like you said, you check your checking account at the end of the month, and if it's in a good place, you're able to at least gauge where you are.
Yeah, I think everybody should at least do kind of a test of, for a couple of weeks or a couple of months of see where their spending is. And so if you like Dan's response to this question, this is actually something I asked to all the podcast guests. If you want to see all of their responses in one playlist, you can do that by watching that right here. Or if you want to watch the full interview with Daniel Braun, you can check that out down below. Hope to see you in another video. Bye-bye.